Hello class and welcome to our 11th lecture series on Managerial Accounting, and I'm your instructor Jamal Haider. Okay, today we are starting chapter 8, which is activity-based costing, which is a totally new concept. So up till now what we have studied the traditional costing, variable costing, relevant costing, right? We talked about also the indirect cost and direct costing, different definitions and their pros and cons. So today we'll talk about the new concept, which is ABC, the activity-based costing. So let's start that. So the introduction of the ABC is that it is designed to provide managers with cost information for strategic and other decisions that potentially affect the capacity and therefore affect the fixed as well as variable cost. Basically, the ABC is a good supplement to our traditional costing system. So in which we don't talk about the variable cost or the segregation of fixed and variable cost, in which we just talk about the cost and the measurement of the cost with different perspective. Okay, so I would be using this pen, so I would be changing, I would be turning off my video. So our first learning objective is understand activity-based costing and how it differs from traditional costing system. Here we go. So the ABC differs from traditional costing accounting in three ways. Number one, in the traditional costing, we have manufacturing costing, and then we have manufacturing cost and we have non-manufacturing cost. So we consider manufacturing cost as product cost, while the ABC not only uses manufacturing cost plus some non-manufacturing cost as product cost as well, right? So it means ABC assigns both types of cost to a product. If I want to ask that what is the product cost in ABC, that it is manufacturing cost plus non-manufacturing cost, right? The second difference is that, like I told you, not all the non-manufacturing cost, some cost related to non-manufacturing cost. And the most important point is that the traditional costing, it allocate all the manufacturing cost, which is direct material, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. All the manufacturing cost to product cost under traditional costing. But ABC, took major portion of manufacturing cost to its ABC product cost. Not all the cost. Remember, not all the manufacturing cost is a part of ABC product cost. Similarly, not all the cost of non-manufacturing cost is a part of ABC product cost. It means majority of the ABC product costing comes from manufacturing cost, and some of the portion is also coming from non-manufacturing cost. So second difference is that ABC does not assign all the manufacturing cost to the product like our traditional costing, in which manufacturing cost must belong to the product cost. That's it. So how how costs are treated under activity-based costing? So first, The third way that the ABC differs from the traditional costing is that ABC uses more cost pools, which means ABC uses different cost drivers or denominator. This is numerator and this is denominator. So in all other costing methods, we talk about that, okay, we will divide it with some certain numbers, cost drivers, but here we will be using different numbers as well. So let's talk about this. So ABC, first of all, the level of complexity here is that for a lower level complexity, it uses plant-wide overhead rate. If the complexity is a little bit higher, it uses departmental overhead rate, right? If the complexity is higher, it uses activity-based costing, which is a mixture of all different kind of cost pools. So let's talk about what are these cost pools. So each cost pool has its own unique measure of activity. It means the job is measured with different kind of activities, and each activity has its own denominator, division, cost driver or cost pool. And then if you want to find out the cost, you add all the cost. It means cost is to be measured through different activities. It's not about that, okay, the direct material is going to be measured as how much direct material is going to be purchased. No, it has its own measure, and every job has its own measure, and the product cost is going to be sum of all the activities. So in traditional way, the traditional cost system usually rely on volume measures, right? Cost divided by number of units, right? Cost divided by direct labor hours or machine hours, right? So ABC use different plus more cost pools, not rely on just one measure like direct labor hours or machine hours. In our previous example, we use different cost structure, but one, like divided by direct labor hours. The manufacturing overhead, is to be based on direct labor hours or machine hours or labor cost, right? So activity in ABC costing is called, it is an event that causes the consumption of overhead resources, right? Activity pool, it is a cost bucket in which costs related to a single activity measures are accumulated. In simple words, how we can measure this activity through different methods. Right? So let's talk about an activity measure is basically the term cost driver is also used to refer to as activity measure. So how we are going to measure this activity based on what? Number of customer, number of advertisement, right? Number of machine hours, number of direct labor hours. So an allocation base is an activity based cost system. So in traditional costing, we call this, or the when we were doing the predetermining overhead rate, over there we talk about the job order costing, in which we talk about the a cost driver or allocation base. This is the same stuff, but since we are using the ABC, so we redefine the cost driver or activity driver or allocation base. The name is activity measure. It's simply the name of that denominator we call under different method. Under job order costing, we call the denominator as cost driver or allocation based. Under ABC, we call the denominator as activity measure. So there are two common types of activity measures. Number one is transaction driver. Number two is duration driver. So in transaction driver, we simply count the number of times an activity occurs. In duration, a measure of amount of time needed for the activity. For example, it is done in 2 hours. So 2 hour multiply the per hour rate, simple. So that is just the definition. We are going towards, it's actually the numerical stuff. And over there you will understand how we are going to calculate. And this looks very tough because we are using different names, different jargons, right? Different terminologies, but in a sense, this is very simple method. So ABC defines 5 level of activities that largely but do not relate to the volume of units produced. Means we are measuring the cost that is